was. Today is November 19th. I had to look there for a while. 2025. We're going to have a different kind of show. We're going to step away from politics, I think, maybe a little bit of sports, I think. And we're just going to talk about some stuff that people just kick around all the time, So we're going to set the tone, going to do some calculations kind of stuff. So I want to kick it over to Carlos and just almost like a barbershop confessional, Carlos. I'm going to kick it off with one question. A belief that you used to have for years, maybe, but now that you're wiser, you're like, man, that stuff is wrong. What do you have one of those beliefs, Carlos?
I do, and it may surprise everyone who knows me. I used to think the Washington Commanders' former name Redskins wasn't racist. But now I know it was based on logic instead of emotion. Okay? That logic says, as an older person, as a more mature person, you can't name a team after the skin color of ethnicity, a group of people based on their ethnicity. We can't have the white skins, the black skins, the yellow skins. You can't have the purple skins. You can't do that. Well, it was done. That was acceptable. The team started out, I believe, as the Boston Braves in 1932. And by 1937, when they moved to Washington, I think they were rebranded as the Boston Redskins before they moved to Washington. And in 1937, they became the Washington Redskins. People are still fighting for the Washington Redskins name. I was one of those ones based on emotion. I'm like, I grew up with the Redskins. I grew up with that logo. Why can't we just do it for tradition? But if we're offending, yes, you can always find somebody who's not offended, but the majority of Native American people or indigenous peoples to this country they shouldn't be used as a mascot. I applaud the Cleveland Indians for changing their nickname to Cleveland Guardians in like one season. Like within 12 months, they got it done. I don't know why it took the Washington football franchise so long to get it done, but Cleveland's baseball team has been around just as long as the Washington football team, if I'm not mistaken, but it wasn't a big deal. So that was my belief that it was okay. And now I don't think it's okay. So, Mr. Spivey, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as far as the Washington Redskins, I know a little bit of history of them, and that's one of the reasons, even though I'm here in the DMV, that I would never root for the Redskins, because history will tell you that the only way they integrated that team was in 1964 when I think it was John F. Kennedy was in the White House, and he told them either they could integrate the team or they could leave Washington. And they were the last team in the NFL to integrate. So, offending somebody with a name is nothing new to them because they were offensive. So that's my take on the Washington Redskins.
Come on, CJ, give me a different perspective.
I feel like the product they were putting out on the football field was far more offensive than the name, but at the same time, it's good that, we caught up to the times and changed the name. And I'm glad you brought up the Cleveland franchise as well, because I'm glad that they changed their name as well, as they were kind of avoiding the smoke. I heard a lot of people controversy about the Redskins for a long time, but the Cleveland Indians is also a wild name for having a Native American mascot at the same time. I thought they should have just doubled down and called the team the Cleveland Caucasians and see if that offended anybody, or the Cleveland Crackers if you want to get, spicy with it. But you can, if that's acceptable, if Indians and Redskins is acceptable, I don't know why you couldn't call them the Cleveland Caucasians or the Cleveland Crackers or the Cleveland, whatever, if you want to keep the theme of a skin color as a team mascot. But I'm glad that we have moved past, those days.
Hey guys, thank you for that feedback on that. But I will say this. I do believe the Washington Redskins logo was a little more more professional, if you can say that, than the Cleveland Indians logo. That thing was like the worst. It was like the worst stereotype on Native American people I think I've ever seen. And people have been cheering for that baseball team with that logo for almost forever. So,
Yeah.
I think that as time passes, we start to realize. One of my mentors told me we all realize our mistakes sooner or later. You just hope it's sooner. In this case, I don't know where it puts you at, depending upon your age, etc. But I think that was a big mistake. I didn't like the name Commanders at first. Makes more sense. The Pentagon's right across the Potomac. It's a lot of military personnel in the area. The W on the side of the helmet, I was like, that's never going to replace the Redskins logo. But like you said, last year that logo looked real good while the team was winning. It's starting not to look too good again this year, what with them losing. But overall, I think the franchise made the right decision. That's my take. Gary,
Okay.
what's your thought?
Well, before I kick it to Mr. Spy, because he's the man of wisdom here on the team. I just got a little feedback about my background, and I'm wearing my Luther Vandross shirt. We're talking about one of the top singers, in my opinion. We can argue about that. But then there's also Randy Watson from Sexual Chocolate. Some people think that he's a good singer too. So I just want to put that out there. We can debate that later on, but that's who that is in case people want to know. That's Randy Watson.
Is that Little Rich's? Is that Little Rich's brother?
Hey man, I think he's related to Pootie Tang. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're talking about
Carlos, if I'm not mistaken, the indigenous people really fought to make Washington change the name. But I remember hearing something. It must have been last year that they were not against the name being changed back to the Washington Redskins. Is that correct?
Again, you can always find a few people
Yeah.
that will side. That's not the majority. I mean, I think if you go through your articles, your
It was a
newspaper
group.
articles,
It was a small group.
your media, it was a very small group. I don't want to say it's like Black MAGAs, but it's a very small group. They find them. They just find, hey, you want the name to go back? All right. I don't know what the deal is, but the majority did not want the name to go back. But I understand where you got that information from.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Spivey, what's a belief that you had, in your years of wisdom that you now realize was wrong? All of us are leaning forward. We're leaning forward now for this. We want to hear this.
Mine is real simple. I was a history major in college and everything, and I always believed that politicians were honest people. I'm serious. I mean, I grew up in the era of Truman, Dwight D. Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, and I always believed that politicians were honest people and people of integrity. And the older I got, and as the years passed, that belief changed, and it really started to change with Tricky Dick, Richard Nixon. And that's when things started to change, when he did the Watergate break-in because he was trying to get an advantage on his opponent. And from there, it seemed like politics to me is just gone down the drain. It's no more honesty in it. And I could have been naive back during the time when I was growing up, when you had these other people, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Lyndon Johnson, and those type people as president. But as the years passed, I have just seen it just go from thinking that good would win out to now it's just gone strictly to evil. And so that's been something that I came to realize, an idea that I had that was wrong.
Okay. CJ, what about you?
I actually had two, and one of them was very similar to what Mr. Spivey just laid out, which is not quite that I believe that our politicians were moral, but that I thought that the people running the country and running the world were competent and intelligent and were the best of the best. And were, it was straight merit, and these were the top of the top, and these were the people that could be trusted and reliable. And then you find out that's not the case. And then some of the most powerful, influential people are some of the most moronic people you've ever met, and they're just, you know, puppets for lobbyists and for other people that are smart. There are smart people up there pulling strings, but it's not always the people that you think it is. And that was one. And then I had a more fun one, which is a sports one coming back to, and this is one I came to by watching some film, and I was on Twitter this week, and I was watching back the 1984, I think, NBA finals. And I was watching the finals and the level of competition and athleticism. And I used to believe that back then, Michael Jordan's era in the 90s was the greatest era of basketball than there ever was and ever will be. But now that I look at the tape compared to now, like, I'm sorry. And I've been on it, and this is not a Jordan versus LeBron thing. This is an era versus era thing. There's the ninth man on the NBA bench is doing those Michael Jordan highlights every night. Like the level of athleticism and skill that the players have now is so outrageously different than it was back then. No fault to the players in the 80s and 90s, because there would be none of these new players without them, you know, laying the foundation and inspiring this new generation of players. But in terms of the skill level and athleticism, they're on another planet. They would not know what to do with a Giannis Antetokounmpo back in the 90s. I'm not even talking about Victor Wembanyama. They would treat him like a mythical creature and probably try to change the rules if they saw him back in the 90s. Like, can you imagine Shaq on the perimeter trying to guard Wemby at the 3-point line, getting crossed up, a step back three? You know, it's just different. I was watching the 80s defense back then, an era known for defense. The way the players move, the athleticism, the way they have 6'9" guys switching on point guards and then rebounding and playing the center. It's just no comparison. I love the old school era, but yeah, there's the players and the athleticism and the way the game has progressed. The era of now, we're seeing a golden age of basketball.
Okay. That sounds like some barroom argument stuff there coming.
Yeah, you know, I was gonna say that one of the things that's made the game different is, and Carlos may remember and Gary may, back in the days of Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Casey Jones, Sam Jones, and all, basketball was a non-contact sport. And today it's totally different. The game has completely evolved. And I don't think these guys today could never play back in the 80s and the 70s because they'd have been thrown out of the game. I mean, I see guys putting bones on people and, you know, bumping people. The game has really evolved. And the same way with football. I mean, if you touch a quarterback, you're roughing a passer. That rule never occurred back when you had Sam Huff. You had Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
What was it? Ronnie Lott was playing
Yeah.
the game and he broke his little finger and he went over to the sideline and told him cut it off. They cut it off, taped it back up, and he won the game. I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, Drew Brees was throwing a pass and it hit the guy's helmet and jammed his finger and he was out for 3 weeks. So the game has really evolved.
Yeah, I was going to
Yes.
say the athletes from the, you know, we'll have that barroom argument or barbershop argument about the NBA, because I still think that the difference between then and now is that pro sports is year round in whatever sport you play. You know, back then, even though the NBA had a longer season, those guys had jobs in the off season. They weren't practicing year round. They weren't working on their skills year round. Today's players are. To me, that's the only difference. I still think Kareem would beat most of the players today. If Kareem was in his prime and Giannis was in his prime, I would go with Kareem. But again, CJ would see it differently, right? You know, so I think you just have to look at that. But I think that's another show, Gary. CJ, you just got something started.
I mean, back in the day, Giannis couldn't have played against Wilt Chamberlain. You know, I mean, Wilt, I guess, along with what was it, Shaq, they couldn't even shoot a foul shot. And I mean, you got Wemby shooting 3-pointers, and you got Giannis shooting 3-pointers. But I'm talking about in the paint. Those guys had a lot more weight and girth on these guys that they do today.
I mean,
Go ahead, CJ.
they didn't have a Nikola Jokic back then, and you know, there's certain
No.
like I said, these unique players, or and again, those players shooting threes changes things because now those bigs have to guard. So those big men that used to just get to stay in the paint and just block shots all day, now they got to move. They got to guard. They got to switch out on Kyrie.
Yeah.
Now you got to be able to survive out there in space. You got to be able to do that with the versatility of the athlete. So again, yeah, Shaq would dominate in the paint on a lot of some of these players, but Shaq would also be pulled out to the 3-point line and have to defend them, which is also, a problem.
Oh, hold
Carlos,
on, I'm getting a call from
you,
Uncle Al in Philadelphia who says he was at the Lakers-Sixers game back in 1980, and he said there was a big man named Magic Johnson, 6'8", that could do anything with the basketball as a guard, a forward, and even played center. And I think he said he won MVP. What? Okay, all right, got you, Uncle Al. I'm gonna put it on the podcast. Thanks.
Hey,
all
look.
right, let me throw something out there. Did anybody see Michael Irvin's rant that he did on YouTube? Because it was another podcast with some of the, I think, younger players who said that people like Michael Irvin couldn't play today in the NFL because these guys today are much faster and maneuver better. And Michael Irvin did a podcast and he just went on into a rant about it. I don't know if anybody saw it.
I saw a couple clips of it.
Oh, you
Hey, I
did?
didn't see it, but I can tell you this. After working with athletes, like I only played 4 years of high school football, but I've, been in contact and I'm in contact with guys who play college football, college basketball on a regular basis. And one thing that most athletes will tell you at some point, when you're a freshman, whether you're in high school or college, walking onto a football field or a basketball court, you see the seniors doing things, the captains of the team doing things you only dream about doing. And by the time, if you stay with that program, by the time you become a senior, you're suddenly doing those things that you thought you could never do. So the point of the conversation is, it really is all about your dedication. It's all about your perseverance. It's all about you continuing to push yourself to be greater. And you have to just, all you can do is be great in the era in which you came up in. We have no control over how they played the game in the 1950s or 60s or 70s. We have no, you can't switch the players up. All you can do is be great in your time. I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I know Michael Irvin got 3 Super Bowl rings. And until a player has more than 3 Super Bowl rings, I wouldn't even entertain him. So you can be the best receiver all you want, but if you ain't got no Super Bowl rings, don't even talk to Michael Irvin. I'm, again, not a Dallas Cowboy fan. Troy Aikman got 3 rings. You can talk about stats all you want, but he got 3 rings. Until you get 4 rings, I don't even want to hear anything. And I'm not a Cowboys fan. That's for you, Mr. Spivey.
You just said it. You just said it enough. I guess people realize you're not a Cowboy fan, but I am.
Go ahead, CJ.
I don't know, like I said, I don't love the rings or everything, conversation. Championships definitely mean a lot and they weigh a lot for your legacy, especially if you're a quarterback or something like that. But especially in football, it's such a team game. Look at Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's going to be a Hall of Famer for the Browns. He should have won a championship, but he's been stuck in Cleveland. He'll probably never win a championship or never even come close to having a chance. And that has nothing to do with Myles Garrett's ability of being one of the best pass rushers we've ever seen, because there's just so many things and so many other variables in football. And that's like going back to the basketball argument. If that is the case, then Robert Ory might be one of the best players of all time if we're just talking about championships. But like, just, he's a great player that contributed to winning, but you wouldn't put him in the all-time great category just because he won lots of championships. I mean, he's like, a great leader, a great winner, but you're not talking about, I'm taking Robert Ory over, like you said, Magic Johnson or somebody because he has more championships. That's ridiculous. So it's like, I think the rings, they mean a lot, they weigh, but I think we overly value championships for some people's careers.
What's my guy Herm Edwards said? We play to win the game. I had a barbershop argument with a guy who said LeBron was better than Jordan because he went to the finals and finished second more. And I said, are we really talking about finishing second? I'm talking about finishing first. So why is the argument of finishing second even involved? Jordan is undefeated, 6-0. No one will ever be undefeated in championship games. But if you went to if you won 4 championships or 5 and you lost 7 or 8, because you have more second place finishes, Ricky Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last.
Well, I think context matters though too though. Like I said, I get what you're saying, and like I said, Jordan is super clutch for winning every time he was, had the opportunity to be there. But look at what Jordan was getting guarded by Jeff Hornacek. Let's keep it real. LeBron was going against Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, super teams while he had bums on his team. He had Tristan Thompson on the graphics with him while he's taking on a 72-win juggernaut. So I think there is context that matters when LeBron's dragging guys that should be in the G League to the NBA Finals and taking the Warriors to 7, rather than when Jordan is, getting guarded by, like you said, guys who are plumbers in the offseason.
All right, look here. Before we
Come on,
get
we got to
too
make
deep,
that a show. I'm not even a basketball guy, but we got to
Okay.
make that a show.
I want
We-
to throw out. I'm gonna throw out one and see what each one of y'all. Who is the best shooter that's ever been in the NBA?
Oh, I'll give it to Curry. I mean, Curry. Look, I thought it was Larry Bird at one point because he just threw up stuff and made it go in. Steph Curry, by far, is the best shooter ever. I can't even believe he's still shooting as sharp as he's shooting. What is he in season 17 or something?
Yeah.
This guy,
His
he's not even
averages-
declining. He's probably getting better. So I give Steph Curry the nod on that one.
He's gonna have like every 3-point record by like 10,000 shots. Like I said, it's not even a discussion. I think
Okay.
back in the day, it was definitely Larry Bird back in that era. But again, like we talked about earlier, the game evolves and there's always going to be that next level. You like say the Bird will inspire the Con Knupples and, the Steph Currys and the new sharpshooters of this other generation. Steph Curry's going to inspire somebody to maybe be better than Steph Curry one day. Maybe in 10, 20 years down the road, there's going to be some shooter that says, I watched Steph Curry tape my whole childhood, and it's going to be like that. Like a lot of the players who come in the league saying, oh, I grew up watching Paul George and Kevin Durant, where it's like, okay, I feel old. Those are guys that came out when I was drafted, and now they're, inspirations for the younger generation because they were born in the 2000s and 2010s and stuff now. So the game just continues to evolve, and there's hopefully that's what continues to make basketball great, is each era is better than the era that came before them.
hey, Mr. Spivey,
Yeah.
I want to defer to you. What's a life lesson that you learned the hard way?
A life lesson I learned the hard way. It's a tough one. One of the things that I can fall back on is one of the things I learned is that it's okay to make a mistake as long as you learn from it. That would be my life lesson.
Okay.
That's
All right.
good wisdom.
All right, there we go from the researcher. Carlos, life lesson you learned the hard way.
Hey, man, I'm going to come at you from a financial perspective, brother. You get what you pay for.
Okay.
I'm telling you right now, you get what you pay for. Get cut rate auto insurance. When it comes time to file a claim and they start denying it, you were like, oh, maybe I should have got Geico. I'm sorry. I'm just being real about it. It can be something as simple as you want to get a roof on your house and you think you're saving $1,000 because you go with somebody you never heard of who says he can do it for $1,000 cheaper. Well, you think you saved $1,000. You're supposed to keep the roof for about 30 years. About 4 years into it, your roof just falls apart and you have to buy another roof. So now you spend almost twice the money for that same roof. And then my wife is really big on even the little things. She said, don't come in here unless you got Heinz ketchup. Don't bring no watered down ketchup up in here now. And you know what? I'm sort of, and cost is very important, right? The economy, people aren't making the money they need to make to pay that extra money for certain products. But I tell you, at the end of the day, if you get the cut rate or the generic product sometimes, the bottom line is they're generic or they're watered down, and it may work just as effectively. But as far as your satisfaction level, in the long run, it's probably better just to pay for the name brand recognition with the great reviews, as opposed to getting the cut stuff. The cut stuff might work, but in the long run, if that red shirt starts to turn pink after 3 washes, maybe you should have gotten tied. So that's all I've said in my life. And you can even chalk it up to your personal preferences, right? If you think you want to go out and spend, if you're a young man and you want to go out and date a young lady, and you say your budget is $20 per date, I don't know what type of woman you're gonna be taking home to your mama, but you might want to budget a little higher to make your mama proud, because anybody who's willing to settle for a $20 date, you may have to think about what their standards are. So everything comes down to, in my opinion, what I've learned is you get what you pay for. So,
Carlos, I
CJ,
did a little research on that. A
mhm.
guy by the name of John Arbuckle said that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, appreciate it. Yep.
CJ, life lesson.
Life lesson, I think for me, it was consistency is just as important, if not more important than any other skill when it comes to anything, really. Those little details and the little things that allow you to be consistent will take you to the next level. And it's those little details, like even getting enough sleep, eating right, drinking water, going to the gym when you don't feel like it. Those little things that don't seem important, they add up to small little wins, and that it will take you further than your talent sometimes.
Okay.
Amen, bro. Amen.
That's good. That's good. Hey man, he's the younger guy, but he's coming up with a little spivey kind of wisdom
I was
there.
getting ready to say he young and wise.
Yeah.
He getting ready to cross over.
Yeah. So CJ, while you got the mic, is there somebody you would put in the Thought Brothers Hall of Fame and the Hall of Shame? Who goes where? You got anybody?
Like who's been on the show, like guests
No,
that have
no,
been.
anybody in the news, anybody, just who would go in your Hall of Fame and who would go in your Hall of Shame recently, let's say within the last 3 months.
Hall of Fame. I'll give it to Zoran just for the win in New York against all odds. It's nice to see just a win for the left for once. So, shout out to him for actually giving people a little bit of hope in this dark political climate. And Hall of Shame, there could be lots of candidates for this one. I mean, I could go Stephen A. Smith. Some of his commentary's been a little crazier than usual. Say Pharrell, my man Pharrell really disappointed me with his rant this week about how he likes to stay out of politics because it's divisive, and he doesn't want to take a side on things. Like, my brother, I love your music, but in today's age, if you're not taking a side, we were literally at like concentration camp fascism level. So if you can't pick a side in today's political climate, I really just see that as cowardice more than trying to stay above the fray and things like that. Also, you're very rich, so it's really hard for me to believe that taxes and some other things might not play into some of your political opinions. But again, as someone who really admires a man's music, it's just one of those don't listen to your heroes in an interview kind of moment and just want to enjoy the music. But I hate that stance from artists, especially musicians. Me as a artist who has a lot less to lose than them, I guess monetarily, but at the same time, back in the day, but in your era, artists used to take a stand for things. They used to have social justice in their songs. They used to actually speak truth to power with their art and have their art be meaningful. But I find today so many artists are cowards when it comes to raising their voice because they don't want to alienate a certain audience, or they want their music to stay marketable for certain labels and things like that. So they don't want to talk about anything controversial. They don't want to take any political stances similar to Pharrell. They just want to be, oh, everybody, everything. But I really just think that's shameful. And that's the whole point of being an artist, is to be able to express your voice and to be able to be a voice for the voiceless. So people with these sanitized, opinions it's really disappointing.
Okay. Snoop Dogg comes to mind. But anyway, did I say that out loud? Mr. Spivey, who's in your Hall of Fame, Hall of Shame?
Well, you talking about, you said the last 3 weeks,
3 months.
last
Let's say
month.
the last 3 months.
Well, I mean, I got quite a few of them. I mean, Jasmine Crockett would be one to come to mind. But the one to me that I would say is in my Hall of Fame right now would be Gavin Newsom, because he pulled a real 380 on those Republicans who was trying to do that redistricting in Texas, and they got slammed down, and he got the 5 additional seats in California. So I would have to put him in my Hall of Fame. Now, as far as my Hall of Shame, um, it's got to be the Orange Man. I mean, he would be in my Hall of Shame. Nobody else would. He would be number one. Uno. Yeah.
All right. Carlos.
All right, man. I'm gonna reverse it. I'm gonna go with the Hall of Shame first. I thought about this, right? It's a tie between the Democrats and Republicans for using the shutdown of the federal government and its employees as a bargaining chip to get what they want. People are not bargaining chips. They're real people with families that need food on the table and roofs over their heads. Both of them are in the Hall of Shame. Okay, bottom line. The Hall of Fame, Thought Brothers. Man, I'm gonna give it up for this brother right here because CJ, you, that's right. Your political commentary, I believe you communicate how the majority of Americans feel about the economy and leadership on Capitol Hill. Remember, the majority of Americans earn below the median income level. So when we talk about Americans, I think you give us some serious commentary on how people really feel in this country, the majority of people. So I just want to commend you, even though we may not agree on the basketball tip. I want to say from a political tip, I think you're spot on, man, because again, it's all about the majority. We only hear about the rich majority on TV, right? But the majority of people in this country, I believe, have very similar views to what you have, and you do a great job of getting them out. So you are my Hall of Fame, brother. There you go.
Amen to
Appreciate
that.
it.
You're welcome.
I actually want to put Christy Nome in my Hall of Shame too, because what they came out with that ICE raid. Do you guys remember the ICE raid in Chicago where they pulled up on a black neighborhood with a Black Hawk helicopter, rappelling down, zip tying children, and all that? Well, it turns out of the 600 people detained that night, 16 of them had a criminal record. 16 of the 600 people that were rounded up actually had a criminal record, and 0 people were charged with any crimes. They might have had like,
That's a good neighborhood.
So again, it shows you that this is all theater and political, theater to have a show to put on the DHS page, but just wanted to shame them for that outrageous display and waste of taxpayer money.
All right. Hey, look, we're going to close out by arguing, okay? We can argue, we can disagree, but Carlos, I'm going to start with you. We're going to close out your top 3 black TV shows of all time.
Okay, man. I thought about this one too. All right. I'm gonna take it from 3 to number 1. Come on, man. Number 3, I just talked about it. The majority of Americans in this country are not even at the median income level. Show called Good Times in 1970s. I think it gave us a way to look at, lower income families and show how much love they still have for each other. And don't let anybody fool you. One of the most popular characters in TV history, J.J. Evans. If anybody in today's society, I don't care if it's J.J. McCarthy or J.J. Abrams, their parents or somebody got that name from J.J. on Good Times. That's
Yes.
where it came from. That he made it fashionable. That's my number 3 black greatest TV show ever. My number 2 takes it from lower income to just an average dude, an average guy, just trying to keep it real. He actually kept it real in many different versions of himself. One of them was Shanae. My man Martin just really showed you, it was really cool to see what it was like to be a young guy in your 20s in the 1990s, 20s, early 30s, 1990s, and having a girlfriend, just trying to get by, just trying to keep a job, just trying to be one of the fellas, just trying to live his life and trying to and do his thing. I think that was a great way because it didn't show young black men in their 20s or 30s on drugs. Even though there was a couple episodes where he was unemployed, but he got a better job back at the end. I think it got rid of some of the stereotypes and really kept it to just comedy and making people feel good and laugh about the things that were going on. But at the end of the day, he still loved Gina. Okay, my number 1 show. I just went from lower income to mid-level income. Man, we ain't never seen nothing like this before. Regardless of where this gentleman stands today, the Cosby Show / A Different World showed us that, wow, You can have a doctor and a lawyer in the same house, and they can be black. Like, they can live a good life and have good values. And I mean, okay, this is on TV. We won't talk about what happened off camera. Felicia Rashad is still cool, uh, but yeah, man, the Cosby Show / A Different World, which to me is just it's a spinoff, right? It's no different world without the Cosby Show. Man, that was just groundbreaking. All the stars that came out of there, Adam Sandler and several other stars that came out of that show. I mean, Little Raven, and there were more. But it was just incredible because we had never seen that before, right? I couldn't tell you in my lifetime where there was a doctor and a lawyer in the same house and they were just doing well and had all that good stuff going on. So those are my top three. Good Times, number 3, Martin, number 2, and the Cosby Show / A Different World. Because they showed us what Black life was at an HBCU as well. Those are my top 3.
Okay. Mr. Spivey.
Well, I'll do a little like Carlos because I had 3. My number 3 would be Sanford and Sons. I mean, they glorified a junkyard. Being a junk dealer, they glorified it. My number 2 would be the Jeffersons. Moving on up, they came from down low and moved on up to uptown. With Wheezy. And my number 1 would have to be the same as Carlos, the Cosby Show, because I think the Cosby Show during that particular time became inspirational to a lot of Black young men and young ladies, that you could have a family of a doctor and a lawyer in the same household. So I think the Cosby Show was a very uplifting show. I know it had a lot of controversy because people were saying it wasn't realistic, but it was realistic for some people. And I think it was quite an inspirational show.
Okay. Thank you, sir. CJ, close us out. Your top 3.
All right. So I had 3 classics, but you guys hit on all of them. So I was going to go with Sanford and Son as one. I was going to go with Good Times as the other one. And I was going to go with the Jeffersons as the classic kind of big 3 of culture. But if we're going to look at more modern ones from my generation, I have to give a shout out to 2 classic Black comedies. One is going to be Chappelle Show. I think Chappelle Show in the 2000s is just a staple of comedy in the Black community and Black culture. Those jokes live on forever. People still make jokes about Tyrone Bigsby and, we got the Black white supremacist and some of these things that will live on just forever in terms of
NBA draft.
The racial draft.
Racial draft.
Yeah, things like that. So it's like Chappelle Show, classic, and also the Boondocks, the animated TV show, The Boondocks, based on the comic strip from Aaron Magruder. Boondocks, some of the funniest commentary you'll ever see. They had the restaurant where they were serving burgers that were in between hot donuts, and they called it the Luther, and they put beds in the restaurant because you would get the itis after you would eat the Luther, and people would have to go to sleep in the beds in the restaurant.
Ew.
Like the Boondocks, just some classic stuff and some classic voice work from Charlie Murphy, Regina King, some great stuff.
All right, there you have it, folks. You can't get this kind of knowledge anyplace else but the Thought Brothers from these perspectives. So this is going to kind of start us maybe by the end of the year, maybe closing out with a couple calculations, barroom shows where we got to do some arguments coming up. But hey, this has been good. Nice change of pace from some of the other stuff we've been dealing with the last couple of weeks. So thank you all for being out here. I'm Gary Johnson for the Thought Brothers, and until next week, we are out of here.
Take care, folks. Good night.
Good time. Anytime you need a place